Hello, I'm Kamala Tamirisa, cardiac electrophysiologist with Texas Cardiac Arrhythmia Institute, current chair of HRS DEI Council, and Heart Rhythm TV anchor for Women in EP Mentorship Series. I am super delighted to have our incredible women role models join me today to discuss the current and the future of women in EP workforce. Dr. Volgman is the medical director of the Rush Heart Center for Women, the first heart program in Chicago devoted exclusively to women. She's the professor of excellence in clinical cardiology at Rush and is nationally recognized for her contributions to cardiovascular care. She's the current governor of Illinois ACC chapter and a proud member of HRS DEI Council. I'll move on with Dr. Frazier-Mills, our second guest. She's an associate professor of medicine and director of outpatient EP services at Duke University School of Medicine. She's an avid researcher and an author, several scientific papers. She's one of the very few Black women EP physicians in the country and serves on HRS DEI Council. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Kamala.
All right, I'll start with Dr. Volgman. I appreciated the Jack editorial we both wrote with Dr. Mikos. Let us start with current statistics regarding women in EP. What are the top 3 to 4 factors that potentially play a role in the deselection process?
Thank you for that question. From the ABIM website, you could see from 2019 to 2020, there are about 23% cardiologists among all the cardiologists in the United States that are board certified. So less than a quarter, which is actually much better than when I was in training. And the good news is that there are more female cardiology fellows than ever, 38%. And then in interventional cardiology, 13%. Unfortunately, electrophysiology is the lowest percent of female percentage of different specialists compared to all of the heart failure and even interventional cardiology. EP is 10%. So it's really, really small percentage. We need to change that.
How do we spark interest in the field early on and alleviate the radiation exposure, work-life imbalances concerns? Maybe I'll give this to Dr. Frazier-Mills.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think in order to enhance the pool of people going into electrophysiology and add more women in EP, I think we have to think about early exposure. I think people don't know it. A lot of people, they do their rotations and they just don't have any real true exposure to what happens in our lab. And so I think having them to come into the lab and see what's going on early on really gives them a better understanding of what we do on a daily basis. And then I think learning how the field has evolved and we've gone to more fluoroless procedures, right? And so that people don't have to worry about radiation exposure to the extent that it was in the past, I think understanding work-life balance, seeing more women in electrophysiology and seeing how we manage having a family or other priorities in our life and still doing a great job in taking care of our patients and leading and putting out research and all of the things that we do. And so having people have the exposure is really important. Having the mentors, having an understanding of how the technology has evolved and how we change different exposures or risks associated with the field has continued to grow. And having people understand that is really important.
I think part of it also is that we need to make them feel comfortable that EP is not a mysterious subspecialty that only certain people can do. We need to take it down to the basics and make sure that people know that it's a really wonderful field. And actually, I think it's even better than interventional cardiology because you're not on call 24/7. Most arrhythmias can be taken care of from 9 to 5. And if they're in ventricular fibrillation, the house staff takes care of it. So that was a huge advantage for me to go into EP.
Very, very nicely said. It answered a lot of, so many areas we can work on, and this is very uplifting. Now we'll move on. How do we engage more of our women and male colleagues so that more and more women come and embrace our field?
I can try to answer that. I think in our editorial, we gave 5 suggestions for how we can do that. One, Camille already said, mentorship, seeing more EP attendings that are female and engaging them at a young age, starting in their medical school, residency, and then, of course, during their fellowship, and engage them as a first-year fellow. Make them go to the lab, make it as exciting as interventional cardiology, that you're saving a patient's life. And it's so rewarding. I remember when I was doing catheter ablations of, accessory pathways, I would tell them, you're cured. And, you can't say that for a lot of things in medicine, but when you ablate that accessory pathway or that, that second AV node, that is a cure. And it is so gratifying. So we need to create excitement about this field. The other thing that we suggested is potentially shortening the training. Instead of 3-3-2, 3 years of medicine, 3 years of cardiology, and then 2 more years of EP, make it 3-2-2. You'll learn enough cardiology in those 4 years and EP. So I think that would be a great way to attract more women and more men actually into EP. And radiation safety and training is really key to making them understand that it is safe to be pregnant while you're doing electrophysiology and interventional cardiology. We need to give them protection for their family. They need to know what the Family Maternity Leave Act is. There was a recent paper that showed that we don't know these, and we are being we're not doing enough for women to understand what their maternity leave can do for them. They should not be penalized for that. And I know that there was a great editorial to show what are things that we need to do. We need to teach them about the Family Leave Act so that they can feel protected. And we should resort to making sure that when we read contracts for our employment, that they read those things and that they put it in writing that they will get a maternity. And we should encourage the men to take a paternity leave. So there are a lot of things that we can do. I think social engagement, we should engage the medical students and residents and teach them about the wonderful field of EP. I know I said too much.
Love it. Love the energy.
It's our passion, right?
It's right, exactly.
So, Dr. Frazier-Mills, as D&I council members, just thinking a little bit ahead, for the future, what sort of data collection or action items can we consider and work on?
I think as a society, we need to know where we're starting from, right? And know who our target audience is. And so just collecting our member status, and understanding who is interested in electrophysiology. I think polling medicine residents and cardiology fellows and helping them understand more about is really important too, particularly if they've shown any interest within electrophysiology. Within DEI, also utilizing some of the programs that we have in order to support women in EP, whether it's with HRS or other programs that exist with a long history. I know I was early in my residency training, became interested in EP and got tied into a lot of women in EP programs early on. And I had exposure to Dr. Russo and Curtis and Hurwitz and whatnot. And so having them early on get to know me a little bit was just kind of amazing, right? And it continued to draw me into the field. I think other kind of early career programs like the GLOW program or other programs that are sponsored through HRS is really helpful and will help people continue to come into the field.
One thing I want to add to that is the presence of female electrophysiologists at ACC. That's where the young fellows are. And if they don't see female electrophysiologists at ACC, they don't even know what that looks like. So please, I encourage you to attend the ACC so that the female fellows can see what a wonderful field it is.
Absolutely. And then, we had 6 women presidents, Heart Rhythm Society did. And in a year or 2, I think we're going to have another female president. So it's a lot to brag about, but there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, as we all discussed. We touched on the role of the role models, the mentors, and the allies across both men and women. So this has been a great discussion, and thank you to Heart Rhythm Society leadership for supporting this, and our wonderful guests today, and the DEI Council support. Thank you.